Hello everybody. In today's video, I'm going to be reading a story, specifically a Scottish story. An illustrated treasury of Scottish folk and fairy tales. The blurb reads: slithering stoorworms, mischievous brownies, fierce kelpies and magical selkies. This is a stunning, richly illustrated collection of classic Scottish tales created by Carnegie Medal winning children's author Teresa Breslin and Kate Greenaway, medal long listed artist Kate Leeper. It's got a beautiful big dragon. On the front seems to have a special casing on its tooth, and even a little septum ring. So, I'm just going to be reading one story from this book. So, it's the second story, called The Water Kelpie. So, it begins. This story is from the Highlands of Scotland, a land of high mountains and mysterious glens, where there are many deep lochs. Some of the lochs are so deep, it is said that if you throw a stone in the water, it will take a year and a day to hit the bottom. Let's begin. Near the deep, dark waters of Loch Ness, there lived a young lad by the name of Kyle. All the food the family had to eat was what they grew on the narrow strip of land between their cottage and the shores of the loch. Kyle had lived there quite happily for 11 years of his life, helping his mother and father work their little croft, when, one evening, near the beginning of the year, he heard his mother speak to his father. "It's almost time for spring sowing. You must rise early tomorrow and plough our fields to make them ready." Kyle's father replied, "I am too old now to drag the plough around the fields, and Kyle is still too young." "What will happen to us then?" his mother asked in a worried voice. "If we do not plough our fields, our crops will not grow, and we will starve when winter comes." Kyle's father pointed out the window. "I've seen a fine black horse roaming there on the loch shore these last nights of the silver moon. I think I could harness it and make it pull our plough." "Oh no," Kyle's mother said in alarm. "You mustn't go near that beast, for it is one of the spirits that roam near fresh water to trap unwary folk and drown them. It isn't a horse, it's a water kelpie." "Nonsense, woman," her husband laughed. "There's a good strong horse. I can take the rope from a plough and tie it round the horse's neck. I'll put my hands on its mane and haul myself onto its back, and then I will tether it to our plough, and it will do the work I cannot do. By this time tomorrow night our fields will be ready for spring sowing." "I tell thee," Kyle's mother repeated, "that is not an ordinary horse, and it is said that a plain rope cannot control a Kelpie. Only a bridle made of iron can do that. Besides, the mane of the Kelpie is said to be magic, so that if you try to grasp it, your fingers become trapped, and also, anyone who mounts a Kelpie becomes stuck to its back and cannot dismount." She took Kyle's father by the arm. "Husband," she begged, "do not go near the loch tonight." But her husband wouldn't listen. He picked up the plough, rope, and putting on his woolen plaid, he went out into the night. Kyle's mother rushed to the door. "Husband, come back," she cried. The legend has been told in story and song that no man can tame the Water Kelpie of Loch Ness. "Come back, husband, come back, or you will surely perish." But her husband had made up his mind. Kyle would have gone to help his father, for he was a brave boy, but his mother held on to him. They both watched from the doorway of their croft as Kyle's father approached the horse, which stood quietly beside the waters of the loch. The horse didn't move as the rope was put around its neck. It remained very still as Kyle's father grasped its long mane and hauled himself up onto his back. But as soon as the man was seated, a gleam of wickedness appeared in the horse's eyes. "Look now," Kyle's mother whispered in fear. Suddenly, the horse, which was indeed a water kelpie, seemed to grow in size until it was twice the height it had been before. It snorted and stamped its feet on the shingle shore, so that sparks flew from its hoofs. Then the kelpie raised its great head and bared its teeth. Fire came from its throat and smoke plumed from its nostrils. It tossed its mane, and its long hair turned to green serpents, which coiled and curled about the hands of the man. It reared up into the air, not once, but 3 times. When its legs came crashing back to earth, it began to race along the shoreline towards the deep waters of the loch. "Jump off! Jump off!" Kyle's mother shouted to his father. But the man couldn't jump off as his legs were stuck to the kelpie's side and his fingers were caught fast in its serpent's mane, and the beast galloped into the waters of the loch and disappeared beneath the water. Although Kyle and his mother searched and called out his father's name the whole night, the only answer they got was the howling of the wind and the dashing of the waves upon the rocks. The following morning, the plough rope and the woolen plaid washed up onto the shore. Sadly, Kyle brought them home to his mother, who sat weeping by the fire. "Now we will surely starve to death," she lamented. "I'll go to the loch," Kyle told her, "and catch some fish." "There will be no fish in the waters where a kelpie lives," his mother replied. "I can but try," said Kyle, and he went to the loch side and began to fish. He had sat there most of the day catching nothing when an old woman came by collecting firewood. "A pleasant day," Kyle greeted her. "To be happy in the sun's warmth before it ends." "That it is," the old woman said, "but I am not warm at night when my bones ache with the cold." Now, Kyle's father had often told him that no matter how poor you were, there was always someone poorer. So when Kyle saw that the old woman only had a worn shawl to keep her warm, he went to the cottage and brought out his father's woolen plaid for her. "I do not take without giving in return," said the old woman. She gave Kyle her worn shawl in exchange. She stared at him as she did, and she said, "It can be better to sit upon a plaidie than wrap it around you." That day, Kyle caught one fish. The next day, as Kyle was fishing, the old woman came by again. "Another fine day for you to enjoy," said Kyle. "That it is," the old woman said, "although if I had bread in my stomach, I would enjoy it more." "Here, have mine," said Kyle, handing the old woman the bread his mother had given for his breakfast. "I do not take without giving in return," said the old woman, and she gave Kyle a lump of salt in a little pouch. She stared at him as she did, and she said, "Salt can be used to kill rather than to cure." Kyle tied the pouch to the waistband of his trousers, and that day he caught 2 fish. On the third day, when the old woman came by, Kyle pondered what she might want this time. He had given her his good plaid and his bread. What else did he have? "A fair day," he said to her as she stopped to watch him fish. "Good for walking and talking." "That it is," the old woman said, "but better it would be for me if I had a stout rope to pull my bucket from the well." Kyle went and got the plough rope to give to her, for it was no use to him, as he could not push the plough. "I do not take without giving in return," said the old woman, and she handed Kyle a bridle for a horse. She stared at him as she said, "Iron is not only used to make a pot." And that day Kyle caught 3 fish. When his mother was cooking the fish for supper, Kyle told her about the old woman. "She is well known hereabouts as a spae wife," said his mother. "You mark well whatever she said to you, and do not forget her words." The days went past, and when the time for spring planting was almost gone, there arrived another night when the moon shone silver. Kyle looked from the window of the croft and saw a black horse standing by the loch. "The Water Kelpie!" he cried out. His mother tried to distract him, but Kyle was determined. "If we are to live this winter, then we must plough the fields straight away. The only way to do it is if I can capture the Water Kelpie and make it work for me." "What makes you think you can succeed when your father failed?" his mother demanded. "The legend says no man can ride the Water Kelpie and live." But Kyle was determined to go, although his mother barred the door. When she fell asleep, he put the worn shawl around his shoulders, and taking the horse bridle, he climbed out of the window and went towards the loch. "My, but you are a bonny beastie," Kyle murmured, and he raised his hand to grasp the horse's mane so that he could haul himself upon its back. Then he paused, and he remembered the words of the old woman when she had given him his first gift. "It can be better to sit upon a plaidie than wrap it around you." So Kyle took the shawl from his shoulders and spread it over the creature's back. Then he grabbed its mane and mounted the Kelpie. For a single second, the beast stood still, and then it swelled in size so that Kyle saw his cottage home become smaller and smaller, and his mother, a tiny figure at the door, shrieking for him to jump off at once. "I will not jump off," Kyle called out. "Not until the Kelpie ploughs our fields." When the Kelpie heard this, it snorted and tossed its head, and it spoke in a terrible voice. "No man can ride a Kelpie and live. Now you are doomed as your father was before you, for I will not do as you command." Smoke and fire came from its mouth, and it wrenched its head around to face the loch so that it could ride into the water and drown its rider. Kyle leaned forward and gripped the mane more tightly. Beneath his fingers he felt the silky hair change to thick, slimy green serpents. Spitting and hissing, the green snakes in the Kelpie's mane tried to wind themselves around Kyle's hands, twist their way between his fingers and coil around his wrists. And Kyle heard the words the old woman had spoken when she'd given him the second gift. Salt can be used to kill rather than to cure. Quickly, Kyle unloosed the little bag of salt at his waist, and he crushed the lumps between his palms. At once the snakes shrank and withered, so Kyle could grasp the Kelpie's head and pull it the way he wanted it to go. The Kelpie was enraged, and it thrashed out with its back legs 3 times, and with its forelegs 6 times. Then the creature reared and plunged and tried to turn its head away from the land, but Kyle held fast. He kept himself sitting on the old woman's plaid, and didn't let his legs touch the back or the sides of the beast, so that he wouldn't become stuck. Kyle recalled the words of the old woman when she had given him the 3rd gift. Iron is not only used to make a pot. He knew that the metal parts of the bridle were made of iron, so he leaned down and slipped the bridle on and put the iron bit into the mouth of the Kelpie. At once the beast quietened and became tame, and would do what Kyle wanted. Kyle trotted towards the croft and called to his mother to bring out their plough, and to run and borrow a rope from the neighbour. This she did, and Kyle harnessed the Kelpie horse to the plough and led it up and down until all the fields were ploughed. Not only did Kyle plough their own fields, he also ploughed the fields for miles around Loch Ness, for water kelpies have the strength of 100 horses. When the fields were done, Kyle waited until the next silver moon, when he led the Kelpie to the water's edge. He slid the bit from its mouth and watched as the creature kicked up its heels and trotted into the water. And that is the story of the Water Kelpie of Loch Ness, where the legend was true, for no man can master the Water Kelpie, but a boy did. So that was a wee story about a water kelpie. If you visit Scotland, be sure to go and see the giant Kelpie heads. They are humongous sculptures, and we definitely take them for granted in Scotland because you just drive past them and oh yeah, there's the big horse heads, but they're very beautiful. And a nice nod to some Scottish lore, folklore. My My auntie bought my daughter this beautiful book, and she's a little too young for it just now, but I love it. It's beautiful, beautiful pictures inside, so I definitely recommend popping online and having a wee buy of this. There's lots and lots of stories inside. So, the wee bannock, the water kelpie, the goshawk and the brave lady, whoopity stoorie, the shepherd's dog, rashy coat, the selkie of Sanday, the eagle and the wren, the brownie of Balharn Hill, the dragon stoorworm and the boy called Asipaddle, and tail end. So there's quite a few stories. With some beautiful wee illustrations inside as well. Here's a beautiful illustration of the kelpie. Can I really focus? But it depicts its sheer size quite well. Black as night. So, thank you for watching this video and listening along. Apologies for not uploading for over a month. I had a few medical treatments around the same time as each other. That's what happens on the NHS waiting list. You can be waiting a couple of years for something and then it all happens at the same time. But I'm fine and it's all sorted. My daughter has just had scarlet fever as well, so lots happening at the moment. But she's okay too. She just celebrated her 4th birthday, so I can't believe that I have a 4-year-old. So it's pretty amazing. So anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you'd like to. And leave a wee comment. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.